with weapons that emitted blue light. Do you know how scary it is when a zombie becomes disciplined? His name is Zombie. His age is unknown. When he died is also unknown. He only remembers the first day after the zombie outbreak. He was unable to escape and became one of them. After that, he wandered around with his kind until one day humans appeared with weapons that emitted blue light. From then on, the zombie army was defeated and some zombies were even enslaved by humans. Zombie didn't understand why zombies had to eat people or why humans had to exterminate zombies. But he knew that if he wanted to survive, he had to become stronger. So from that day on, Zombie began his disciplined life. If he wasn't swimming around the world a few times a day, he was lifting weights for hours on end. He even ate protein powder as food. So Zombie became bald but also became stronger. Despite this, he still only wanted to be friends with humans. In order to achieve this dream, he once rescued human cubs from a fire and even caught a plane with his bare hands to avoid a major disaster. When facing an oncoming train at high speed, he only needed one punch to solve the problem. In order to get along better with humans, he gathered all the zombies in an abandoned city and required them to eat eggs every day. However, one day when Zombie was buying eggs in the supermarket, he found that his subordinates were on the wanted list again. At the same time, two reporters were secretly taking pictures nearby. They didn't believe that Zombie had the ability to lift a plane with his bare hands. But the next second they were stunned by what they saw. Zombie lifted a truck weighing tens of tons with one hand and then jumped on the spot and broke through the atmosphere with the truck in an instant. After circling most of the earth, Zombie finally arrived at his territory. The zombies who saw this scene were very excited, but two zombie cubs next to them asked, "King, why didn't you drive the truck over?" "Because I don't have a driver's license," Zombie replied awkwardly after answering the question. He then came to where his subordinates were gathered and various zombie bosses inside were already getting impatient waiting for him. But when Zombie opened the door for a moment, his subordinates still quickly stood in 2 rows. At this time, Zombie slapped the wanted order on Ah Go's body and said, "Ah Go, what's going on? How did you get wanted by humans again?" Ah Go was sweating profusely and then explained tremblingly that he couldn't control himself when he met humans. At this time Blackie also said, "Although our zombie territory is still expanding infinitely, we have changed several capitals in order to avoid humans. Varmint even proposed the idea of going to war with humans. It's been so long that my chainsaw is going to rust." But just as Zombie was about to educate them about how terrible humans are, there was a sudden loud rumbling sound from the sky. It turned out that human fighter jets had unknowingly arrived above them and the commander inside was actually a young woman with a heroic appearance. At this moment, the president on the fighter jet was looking at the screen data and pondering. 2 subordinates reported to her. Everything was ready and they could act at any time. The president tilted her head slightly and asked, "Where is the cargo?" It turned out that there was a stunningly powerful heavyweight nuclear bomb on the fighter jet. "Come on, I'm going to level this place in 20 minutes. At this moment, Zombie below also sensed the crisis. Varmint was even more gleaming in his eyes, shouting and wanting to rush up and fight them desperately. But at this time, Zombie stopped him and said, "No, you will become out of control when you get close to humans. You should take the citizens and evacuate here first. As for those humans, let me go and meet them instead." Soon after, some armed trucks also slowly drove into here. Their mission was to search for survivors on the ground. At this moment, the cockpit door of the fighter jet suddenly opened. A fully armed white-haired boy stood tall in the middle. Facing the dense zombies below, he was not panicked at all. Instead, he curved his lips and vowed to kill all the bosses here. At the same time, a man in a white coat was staring at the screen in front of him. "Brother Faye, that seems to be a person from the Extraordinaries Academy. Hearing this, the man's mouth curled slightly and said, "Let's play with them well." After saying that, he pressed a red button hard. Immediately, a cage full of humans fell from the sky, finally landing slowly in the middle of the zombie horde. At the same time, the rescue team also received the desperate distress signal from the humans. Immediately, they tried their best to suppress them slowly with firepower. But at this time, a red-haired girl suddenly screamed, "How can that zombie not die?" Looking in the direction she pointed, they saw 2 zombie cubs hugging each other and shivering. And blocking in front of them was actually our male protagonist, Zombie. Suddenly, a blonde soldier raised a rocket launcher and aimed at the zombie. However, at this time someone reminded the blonde soldier, "Sir, we seem to have bombed the wrong person. This zombie masked man seems to be the recently emerging extraordinary human." The blonde soldier was stunned by what he saw. He had accidentally blown up the wrong person. But as the white smoke cleared, Zombie was standing there unharmed, touching his head with a puzzled look. At this moment, President on the fighter jet suddenly spotted the zombie boss's trail. So she ordered the white-haired boy to go to Zone B and intercept him. As soon as she finished speaking, the white-haired boy immediately leaped from the fighter jet at a height of 100 meters. On the other side, the man in the white robe started his mysterious plan in a certain room. "Brother Faye, I didn't expect them to evacuate the civilians. They are not to be messed with." Hearing this, Faye smiled slightly and tilted her head. "Let's give them something fun then." The green-haired man nodded immediately in understanding. Then under his control one of the zombies in the horde suddenly underwent a horrifying mutation in a short while. And his change also caught the attention of Zombie in the distance. But just then, the blonde soldier from the rescue team suddenly sprinted. While Zombie was still confused, he hoisted him up and ran towards his own convoy. He muttered as he ran that he had saved his life. After throwing Zombie onto the car, he hurriedly urged the driver to run faster. And so the zombies' boss was successfully rescued. On the way, the red-haired girl asked him why he always wore a zombie mask. Zombie looked embarrassed when he heard this. He didn't know how to answer. Meanwhile, the other rescue team also ran into trouble. They saw the mutated zombie lift up a bus. Then he threw it at them with great force. Fortunately, the white-haired boy appeared in time. He cut the bus in half with just one slash. The crowd cheered when they saw this scene. "Great, it's the president of the Academy's swordsmanship club. We're saved now." Marshall told them to take the civilians away first. He would handle the rest. Just then, the zombie let out a piercing scream, as if it was suffering from great pain. Marshall noticed this and quickly drew his knife. Facing the zombie's attack, he slashed down. The zombie's body instantly cracked with numerous fissures, then exploded with a bang, shattering into pieces. He thought he could end the fight early, but he heard a rush of footsteps, interrupting his sense of victory. Marshall turned his head and looked at the source of the sound. He saw Zombie had quietly walked to the side of that zombie without him noticing. Zombie said, "I'm sorry, I'm too late." When Marshall heard that, he immediately classified him as one of the zombies. Then he raised his knife and slashed at Zombie. But the next second he was stripped naked and hung on a power pole. At the same time, the soldiers on the plane also noticed something was wrong. Oh no! Marshall's health is dropping fast. The president was stunned to hear this. Marshall was actually defeated. Damn it, there are still civilians who haven't gotten out. We can't drop the bomb on them. She gave a slight shake and jumped off the fighter jet. Zombie was baffled by what was happening. Another figure appeared in the air, speeding towards him. It was the commander of this mission. She quickly drew her sword from her waist. And then she slashed at Zombie with her move, White Blade. But the next second, the sword that could cut through anything shattered with a loud crack. President, who witnessed this scene, was incredulous. Zombie, on the other hand, was unscathed. President's eyes widened slightly. What the hell is this thing? She then hastily jumped back and put several meters of distance between them. Zombie looked a bit embarrassed at the woman who suddenly appeared, and quickly explained, "Well, I already apologized earlier." Hearing the zombie speak, President was also shocked. But she wouldn't let go of the enemy in front of her, and immediately pulled out her second sword, coldly saying, "Come on, let me see how powerful you really are." Zombie shook his head helplessly. I said, "Can't you humans listen to me patiently until I finish talking?" Before he finished his sentence, President rushed at him like an arrow. She thought her speed was unmatched, but she didn't expect to miss this strike. She immediately turned 360 degrees and used her ultimate move, Red Blade. Red flashes of light swept across, cutting everything in half that they touched, even the buildings around them. However, under such an attack, Zombie just bent down slightly and dodged it. "Damn it, you're playing with me." The survivors around were almost done evacuating, and even Marshall, who was knocked out by the zombie, was dragged onto the car. The assistant on the fighter jet called President urgently, telling her to come back quickly. But President was fighting with the zombie fiercely, and had no time to care. The zombie was also helpless. Why was this woman so persistent? President had never been able to touch the zombie's edge, and now she was almost going crazy. They chased each other across half of the city. President saw that she couldn't catch up with the zombie, and immediately activated her second form. Her calves suddenly spewed out a lot of white gas, and after charging up, she shot out like a sharp sword. She came to the zombie's back in an instant, and then used her strongest move. The two landed almost at the same time.
Target eliminated.
President thought she had taken care of the zombie. As she was talking to the fighter jet on the radio, a mysterious force was plotting something on the other side. They had even planted a spy in President's team. Just when everyone was cheering for their rescue, the spy on the jet suddenly activated the nuclear bomb launcher. And then he pressed the button without hesitation. With a click sound. The next second, the heavy-duty nuke dropped from the jet. At this point, the spy in the cockpit had been subdued by the other two. When they reported this news to the others, everyone showed a fearful expression, looking at the nuke that was falling fast. President started to panic too. Then she quickly opened the ejector seat and tried to jump back to the jet. But the next second she froze in place. It turned out that her fight with zombie had drained all her energy. Just when President didn't know what to do, zombie suddenly appeared in front of her with a flash. Then before she could react, zombie grabbed her and spun her around on the ground. Then President was thrown into the sky, and finally landed precisely on her jet. It took her a while to come to her senses. Suddenly, she realized with horror that the zombie was still alive. At this point, the nuke was less than 1 kilometer from the ground. However, zombie didn't seem to have any intention of dodging. He lifted his foot and kicked hard. The ground cracked open around him as the center. And zombie flew into the air like a sharp sword. For his citizens, he bravely faced the nuke. Just before he touched the nuke, zombie stretched out his fingers and clenched them. With a bang, he actually smashed the nuke's warhead flat. Everyone who saw this scene showed an incredulous expression. A loud boom echoed through the sky and earth. As a huge mushroom cloud rose up, zombie completely disappeared into the flames. After a long time, when the flames slowly died out in the ruins, President on the jet showed a terrified expression. She saw a figure falling from the sky. Zombie scratched his head and thought, "Oh, I have to spend money to buy clothes again." While zombie was worried about having nothing to wear, President on the fighter jet started to feel depressed. What's wrong with President? Why is he so gloomy? You better not ask. President fought zombies all his life, but now he was saved by a zombie. That kind of mood would make anyone unhappy, right? But then another subordinate suddenly shouted, "President, you got it wrong." She took the zombie's file and came forward to explain. This guy is not a zombie. He is an abnormal human who likes to wear a zombie mask lately. Hearing this, the girl's face instantly darkened like she wanted to eat someone. The next day, a ragged man came to the human city. Zombie quickly teleported to a phone booth. He was relieved when he learned that his men had safely retreated. But little did he know, his every move in the city was captured by the cameras. As soon as he returned to his rental room naked, President spotted his trail through the surveillance. At this moment, Zombie seemed to feel that he was being watched. And looking at the naked zombie, the girl's face was full of black lines. One day, Zombie was doing his usual self-discipline training, but thinking of his brothers who were still homeless, Zombie couldn't help but wonder. He didn't know if they had settled down well. However, at this moment, his door was suddenly kicked open by someone. It was the woman he had saved before. She ordered her men to start moving things around as soon as she entered. While Zombie was still confused, the woman suddenly took out an admission letter and put it in front of his eyes. "We are from the Beyonders Academy. We are here to inform you that you have been accepted. From now on, you are a member of our academy." After saying that, she pointed at Zombie. A few men in suits got the order and approached him in an instant. But Zombie protested quickly. "What are you guys doing? Can zombies go to school too?" However, President insisted that he was just a human wearing a zombie mask. And so, the poor zombie was forced to enroll in the Beyonders Academy. At this point, the redhead girl said, "President, is it okay for us to recruit people privately like this? And the dorms are full now too." Hearing this, President thought for a moment and then said, "Then let him stay with me for now." Zombie was totally confused by the woman in front of him. Seeing that she didn't say anything for a long time, he asked tentatively, "So, do I live here from now on? And where do I sleep? What's the problem? Or do you want to sleep with me?" she said to him. Zombie quickly waved his hands to show that he didn't mean that. But actually he had some fantasies in his mind. However, at this moment, the woman said to him, "You can stay in the guest room next door." Hearing this, Zombie felt a bit disappointed and said, I think you guys got it wrong. I'm not a human." The woman didn't answer after hearing his words. Instead, she started to fiddle with her legs. Just when Zombie was puzzled, she actually took off her legs. Then she calmly explained, "I cut off these legs myself." It turned out that when she was a girl, there was a zombie outbreak in her village. Her parents not only turned into zombies, but also bit her legs. She had to chop off her own legs in order to survive. And she also killed her zombified parents with her own hands. It was from that moment on that she swore to kill any zombie she encountered. Hearing this, Zombie quickly swallowed back the truth that he was a zombie. Then the woman looked at Zombie and asked, "What were you going to say just now?" You must have heard it wrong. I didn't say anything." To ease the awkwardness, Zombie quickly changed the topic and asked, "What is this Beyonders Academy you guys mentioned?" The woman didn't pursue the previous topic either. Instead, she started to tell Zombie about the history of the academy. It had been more than 1,000 years since the zombie outbreak. In order for humans to survive better, the government created the Beyonders Academy. And this academy was specially designed to train talents who could deal with zombies. Hearing this, Zombie couldn't help but think of how he looked like when he became a zombie. He didn't expect that he was already over 1,000 years old now. Then the woman said to him, "Tomorrow is the registration time for the academy. If you don't show up, we will be investigating your motive for trying to run away. And by the way, my name is Violet. The one you met tomorrow, Dawn, will show you around." Hearing this, Zombie was baffled. Dawn, do I know this human? Standing in front of the Beyonders Academy, Zombie looked completely confused, so much so that he didn't even hear Dawn when she tried to greet him. This made Dawn angry and she started to scold Zombie. After throwing a final remark about the upcoming assessment, she stormed off towards the academy. Zombie, realizing he had made a mistake, quickly caught up with her and asked if the school required an entrance exam. As it turns out, this academy only accepts students with special abilities, and if their assessment scores don't meet the requirements, they won't be admitted. They arrived at the assessment site and saw hundreds of new students, each with their own unique physical appearance due to their special abilities. Since there were too many new students, Dawn had to ride on Zombie's head to get a better view. Curious, Zombie asked if he was exempt from the assessment since he had lifted an airplane in front of humans before. However, Dawn explained that lifting an airplane was only considered a common ability in this academy and that the teachers there didn't pay attention to the news. Suddenly, a limping old man slowly made his way to the podium. "Hello, I am your examiner. You may also call me sports department's president, Chen," he introduced himself. "The academy has been around for hundreds of years, and during that time, we have trained a variety of talents. Hope you can train hard like your predecessors and become an outstanding student." However, before he could finish his speech, Zombie suddenly interrupted with a question. What if a zombie was among the students?" he asked. The examiner's response was blunt, "We'll tear it limb from limb, and we will neuter it." Hearing this, Zombie felt a sharp pain in his lower body. Next up was the assessment, starting with a race. At the sound of the starting gun, the students rushed out like swords, running 100 meters in just 3 seconds. However, Zombie was still standing on the starting line, looking completely bewildered. They soon arrived at the second stage, which was a shooting competition. With a stylish pose, Dawn fired several bullets, and in the next second, the zombie head on the target was completely shot off. To avoid revealing his identity as a zombie, Zombie had to act cautiously and keep a low profile. He would always just pass the assessments with scores right on the passing line. While others had to run the 100-meter dash in under 10 seconds to pass, he would run it in exactly 9.57 seconds. And while others had to throw the shot put over 80 meters to pass, he would just throw it to 80.1 meters. However, despite his efforts to go unnoticed, Chen had taken notice of Zombie's behavior. He looked at the data in his hand and pondered for a moment. All of Zombie's subjects had only just reached the passing line, yet Violet said he was very strong. Was this person hiding his true strength, or did he have some secrets he was keeping? Soon, the next assessment arrived, testing the student's ability to throw a javelin. A red-haired boy took a stance and unleashed all his power. The next moment, the javelin flew out like a shooting star and hit the zombie target's lower body with a bang. Zombie, who witnessed the scene, felt a chill down his spine. The javelin had pierced through 3 zombie targets in an instant and still showed no sign of slowing down. Finally, it stuck into a road sign 32 kilometers away. Soon after the red-haired boy finished his assessment, Zombie stepped up to the stage. As he walked past, the red-haired boy gave him a disdainful look. However, Zombie did not react much and quietly picked up the javelin to begin his low-key assessment. Suddenly, Chen called out to stop him, attracting the attention of those around them. He walked up to Zombie and asked, "You're Zombie, the one introduced by Violet, right? She said you're very strong, but every time you take an assessment, you just barely pass. Are you hiding something? Everyone here is putting in all their effort, but you seem to be holding back. Are you a zombie?" Upon hearing this statement, Zombie quickly waved his hands to indicate that he is, in fact, a human. Chen then stated, "If your spear can be thrown more than 4 kilometers, I'll acknowledge that you're qualified. But if you can't, I'll charge you with espionage and castrate you." At this point, Zombie was completely dumbfounded. Ever since he turned into a zombie, he had been living in hiding, constantly exercising every day just to stay alive and avoid being captured by humans. So when Chen issued his challenge, Zombie thought to himself, "I'll just throw it as far as I can." Without hesitation, Zombie raised the spear in his hand, and with a flash of red in his eyes, a powerful energy surged through the exam hall. In just a moment, the spear had flown into space, piercing a satellite with a loud pop and continuing on its trajectory towards the moon. The students in the exam room were all blown away by Zombie's tremendous power. Chen cursed in disbelief at the destruction caused by a mere human. Unbeknownst to him, a gaping hole had been created on the surface of the moon, caused by the spear's impact. The power of this 1,000-year-old zombie is terrifying. His spear, thrown casually, can create a hole on the moon with ease. The force of the throw even caused the entire field to shatter, and the onlooker students were directly lifted off their feet. As they watched the students falling from the sky and the calm zombie in the field, both the examiner and students were amazed and in shock. Dawn looked at Zombie in admiration and asked, "You're so amazing. How far did you throw it?" Zombie scratched his head in embarrassment and said, "I don't know either. I just tried my best like I was told to." Hearing this, a meteorite that was about to hit the earth was scared out of its wits. After passing the test, Zombie successfully passed the assessment. He asked Dawn if he could go home now with his certificate. Dawn looked at him as though he were a fool and said, "Why would you want to do that? With your strength, you could become a president. Do you know how much authority the president of a department has?" Zombie looked confused at Dawn's words. Dawn explained to him, "Take Violet, the Blade Department's president, for example. She not only commands an army, but can also use tanks, airplanes, and artillery at will, and even has the authority to use nuclear weapons. She even manages a city with a population of 40 million. And even the mayor is under her control. Strictly speaking, she is the true mayor." However, none of this impressed Zombie as he had his own city to govern. Soon, led by Dawn, they arrived at the biotech department. This is the logistics department for the students, and any student who passed the test could come here to choose a weapon. Zombie saw a picture frame on the table with a harmonious family of 4, which reminded him of his own family. Dawn explained to him, this was Professor Jamie, the former president of the biotech department, who was fondly known as the logistics minister. However, after his wife died, Professor Jamie became obsessed with using humans and zombies for biological research. But he was dismissed by the Academy for going overboard. The Academy even issued an order to kill him on sight. Just then, a girl with glasses walked over and asked, "Did Dawn pass the test?" Dawn replied proudly, Of course. Dawn then introduced a zombie. She's the orphan adopted by Professor Jamie and the acting president of the biotech department. As they were talking, the acting president walked over to her seat and said, "Come over here. What kind of equipment do you need?" Upon hearing this, Dawn immediately stepped forward and said, "I need something that can carry more weapons, preferably something that can fit a Gatling gun in my pants." It seems that Dawn is ready to enter the gunner department. "What about you?" the acting president asked Zombie. However, when she saw Zombie's face, she was frightened and screamed loudly. Dawn quickly explained, "Sister, you got it wrong. He's not a zombie, he's just a human wearing a zombie mask. Do you think I'm stupid? Or are your eyes growing out of your ass? He's obviously a zombie." Upon hearing this, Dawn lied and said that she had already seen Zombie's face, which dispelled the acting president's concerns. "Alright, I'll trust you this time. What kind of weapons do you need?" After some thought, Zombie said, "I don't really have anything mind. It's just that whenever I go out, I somehow always end up going home naked. So, maybe a set of clothes that won't rip." Upon hearing this, the acting president was speechless. Meanwhile, inside the dojo of the swordsmanship department, Marshall was kneeling on the ground, looking very embarrassed without any clothes on. On the other side of him, a woman had her leg resting on the table, listening to him recount his defeat. He was super strong. As soon as I charged over, my entire vision turned dark. And the very next second, I was already handing on top of the lamp post. The woman spoke slowly, "Can your president win against him? I feel like he's even stronger than my president." Upon hearing this, the woman walked up to Marshall and asked, "I'm very interested in that guy now. What's his name?" This girl is none other than Lan Chi, the president of the sword department. She and Violet, the president of the blade department, belong to the same level and both possess absolute control over a city. They have been long-time rivals and will resort to any means to poach members from each other's department. Because the population of the city managed by the Blade Department is always one more than that managed by the Sword Department, Lan Chi, the president of the latter, even wishes she had a twin to surpass the Blade Department. As Lan Chi walked away, Mashal couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. "Mr. Zombie, I wish you good luck." Meanwhile, in the Academy's teaching building, Zombie was taking notes furiously as the teacher explained how to capture zombies. The zombies not only love human flesh but also have a fondness for eggs. By exploiting their weaknesses, we can capture them. Zombie was startled to hear this news. He never thought that humans had such core secrets. Nowadays, ordinary zombies pose no threat to humans. By capturing them and placing a piece of meat in front of them, they can run indefinitely and generate unlimited power for humans. Moreover, by refining them into corpse oil, the humans can also solve the fuel problem in industry. The thought made Zombie work even harder to take notes. Just then, Dawn curiously approached him. "What are you doing?" Zombie replied without looking up, "I want to write down everything the teacher says so that I can tell my family when I go home." Hearing this, Dawn looked puzzled. "Your family?" At that moment, a broadcast came on, "All students, please note that the new first-year students should gather in the indoor venue." Shortly afterward, the indoor venue of the academy was crowded with people. Just as Zombie and Dawn were wondering what was happening, Violet, the president of the Blade Department, walked over and said, "This is a very important meeting. You all better be quiet. You were introduced by me, so don't cause me any trouble." At the same time, on the other side, Lan Chi stared curiously at Zombie and wondered, "Is that guy Zombie? He doesn't seem very smart and doesn't appear to be very powerful either." She then prepared to have her subordinates test Zombie's strength. Just then, the door of the indoor venue opened, and a man with several robots walked in. This man was the president of the Mechanical Life Form Department, who also happened to be Grand President of the Academy. Everyone bowed and paid their respects to him. Seeing Zombie standing there stupidly, Dawn pushed down his head and said, "What are you doing?" This is the president of the Mechanical Life Form Department, one of the most powerful people in the Academy. As the Grand President walked past Violet, he patted her on the shoulder and said softly, "Thanks to you for the last operation, you did a great job." Seeing this scene, Zombie looked puzzled and wondered if something was going on between them. Dawn smirked at him and asked if he was jealous. Zombie replied that he was just asking a casual question. He then asked Dawn if the Grand President was powerful. Dawn explained, "Do you remember Professor Jamie I told you about before? He was the last batch of people to conduct biological research before he was wanted. Among the tens of thousands of experimental subjects, only he survived. After Professor Jamie was wanted, he founded the Mechanical Life Form Department. His strong power convinced people, and he successfully increased the city's population under his management to 50 million. In the 10 years he governed the city, not a single zombie appeared in his jurisdiction, and he wiped out every single one of them. Hearing this, Zombie was suddenly frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. At that moment, the voice of the Grand President rang out, "Although all of you are only first-year students, you are all elites from various fields. Now, I have a matter that requires your assistance." With that, he signaled the nearby robot to activate the camera, and the robot's head opened to project an imprisoned figure behind the Grand President. "This person is a spy we captured a few days ago. He secretly dropped a nuclear bomb, nearly killing one of our outstanding presidents." Upon seeing the figure, Zombie's anger soared. "So it was this guy who bombed me with a nuclear bomb last time." The Grand President continued, "Normally, such a person would be executed immediately, but according to reliable intelligence, this person is the confidant of the former president of the biotech department. In order to make him reveal the hiding place of Professor Jamie, we have tried various methods, but students from grades 2 to 5 have all failed, even using the rack, needle pricks, and castration, but he still did not budge. You are all talents from different regions, and I declare here that whoever can make him reveal the hiding place of Professor Jamie will be appointed as the vice president." With those words, chaos erupted in the audience. As a first-year student, they couldn't believe they stumbled upon such an opportunity. The students then began to sign up, displaying their unique skills and abilities. Some resorted to verbal intimidation, some resorted to offering incense and praying, some resorted to banging drums and gongs, and still, others even recited scriptures. Watching these peculiar actions from the students, Violet felt a wave of dizziness, wondering what kind of talented individuals she had recruited. 2 hours later, those students tried every trick in the book. They still could not extract any information from the prisoner, nor could they even make him speak. It was then that Dawn looked towards Zombie and asked, "Zombie, can you make him speak?" Upon hearing this, Zombie's expression became serious. "Not only can I make him speak, but I can also make him sing loudly." Dawn's face lit up with excitement upon hearing this, and with the Grand President's approval, Zombie slowly made her way towards the interrogation room, muttering, "My subordinates have always been obedient, but they always lose control when they see humans for no reason. I hope this human can explain something." Those who did not understand the truth, like Violet and Dawn, were puzzled by his sudden enthusiasm. But soon after, Zombie walked into the interrogation room, where the man was imprisoned. Upon seeing Zombie, the man snorted and did not even bother to look at him. However, Zombie did not speak. He only stared coldly at the man. The man, seeing this, spoke first. "Are there no more people in your academy? Sending new recruits like you is useless. I won't betray Brother Faye." In the next moment, Zombie responded with action. His arm quickly sliced across the man's body, leaving a wound on his arm. At first, the man looked at the wound with disdain, even laughing out loud. "Are you here to joke around? I am not afraid of having my balls crushed, and a mosquito bite would hurt more than your scratch. Could you please use a little more force?" It wasn't until Zombie coldly said, "Stand up," that the man obediently stood up. Watching this scene, Violet and others in the monitoring room were shocked. How did he do it? It turned out that when Zombie scratched the man just now, he had also injected the zombie virus into the man's body. The virus traveled through the man's blood and quickly took control of his brain. The man had now become a second-generation zombie under Zombie's control. Then, Zombie asked the man what his name was. The man answered, "My name is Shao Kai." This made everyone in the monitoring room even more shocked. Did he have the ability to control other people's thoughts? Zombie then asked, "I heard you're a close subordinate of Professor Jamie. So you must know a lot, right?" "Yes, I know most of the things." "Okay, then tell me, why did the zombies in Y City suddenly lose control?" "Because Brother Faye sprayed a biological agent over the city. The zombies became violent after smelling the agent. However, we can control these zombies. Brother Faye ordered them to attack humans to get combat data from the Beyonders Academy." "Why did you do this?" "Brother Faye only told me that he was doing something great. He ordered us to control the zombies and kill humans, extract combat data from the members of the Beyonders Academy, but I don't know anything else. Where is Professor Jamie currently located? He is located 500 meters underground in the ruins of the H-City. After obtaining Professor Jamie's location, Zombie commanded the man to turn around, and he walked out step by step. In a zombie-like tone, he muttered, "You people are really hateful, and I don't want to see you again. Take care of it yourself. The man responded woodenly, "Understood." As Zombie walked out of the interrogation room, everyone's gaze upon him was filled with fear, causing them to unconsciously step back. The surrounding murmurs were heard, "This guy is too twisted, it's terrifying. He can actually control people's thoughts." Listening to the surrounding comments, Violet stared sternly at Zombie, while Lan Chi became even more curious about him. Just then, the Grand President applauded, "Truly awe-inspiring. First-year students are indeed full of surprises. I promised you the position of Vice President, and I will fulfill my promise. Now come with me to register." Just as Zombie was about to inquire about Professor Jamie, the Grand President interrupted him, "No rush, we are also looking for him." Afterward, under the Grand President, they left. Once they departed, Lan Chi's subordinates looked puzzled. "Strange, do we still need to register for the Vice President position?" Lan Chi was also unsure of what the Grand President was up to, so she decided to follow along and see. Meanwhile, 500 meters underground in a laboratory in H-City, the man with glasses turned to Professor Jamie and said, "Brother Fei, according to reliable sources, the spy has already confessed, and our location has been exposed." Upon hearing this, Professor Jamie did not answer but instead fell into brief contemplation. After a moment, he said, "It doesn't matter if he confess. We will do what we need to do. Let them come." The man with glasses was filled with cold sweat. "Those people are not to be trifled with. You are taking a great risk." Professor Jamie walked away nonchalantly. "Our experiment is nearing its end. If they can come, all the better. Let them witness the birth of a new species." In the meantime, Zombie followed the Grand President to an abandoned factory in the outskirts. As he surveyed his surroundings, he asked the Grand President, "Where are we? Didn't you say you were going to take me to register and then find Professor Jamie?" The Grand President stopped in his tracks and said coldly, "Zombie, when did you learn to speak human language?" Puzzled, Zombie asked, "Are you talking to me?" Just then, the Grand President turned around and aimed his plasma cannon at Zombie. "Yes, I'm talking about you." With that, he pulled the trigger. Zombie was hit in the head before he could react, and the group following behind him narrowly avoided the blast. That was close. That's the Grand President's speedy cannon. It can instantly reach temperatures of 10,000 degrees and dissolve any substance. As the smoke cleared, the Grand President muttered, "They're fools. I'm not. I don't even know what the Academy's security guards are doing. Strange things have infiltrated the Academy, and they don't even know it. The zombies' weakness is in the head. Once the head is removed, they lose all ability to act. I'm sorry, Mr. Zombie, but the Academy is not where you belong." As soon as he finished speaking, Zombie turned into a green light and appeared before him in an instant, slamming him into a wall. The Grand President stared in disbelief. How is this possible? Just then, his accompanying robot came to his aid, and 4 lasers were fired at Zombie, engulfing him in a fiery explosion. The next moment, a dark figure quickly emerged from the flames and grabbed one of the robot's necks. Taking advantage of this, the Grand President quickly jumped 2,000 meters away. But when he stabilized himself and looked back at the battlefield, he was shocked to see that his robot had been instantly killed, and the headless zombie was coldly holding 2 robot heads and looking at him. The Grand President standing by was utterly shocked, wondering what in the world was this thing. How could a headless zombie be so strong? Even Lan Chi and her subordinates, who were hiding on the side, were completely bewildered. Just then, Zombie suddenly exerted a burst of energy and appeared next to the Grand President in the next second. However, to his surprise, the Grand President was not slow either. While dodging Zombie's attack, he was still able to counterattack with ease. But despite his efforts, the Grand President's speed was not enough to land a hit on Zombie. The Grand President was now terrified. How could this headless creature be so agile? He didn't have time to think, as Zombie's fist was already swinging towards him like lightning. At the last moment, the Grand President hastily stepped back and retreated dozens of meters away. Very good, You are the first zombie that has forced me to use my full strength. I hope this battle won't end too quickly. Hearing this, Lan Chi knew that the Grand President was now taking the fight seriously. Meanwhile, Zombie suddenly underwent a transformation. His head, which had been crushed before, had grown back out of nowhere. Seeing this, both Lan Chi and the Grand President were completely dumbfounded. What kind of creature was this? Zombie spoke up, "Let's talk, I don't want to hurt you." Feeling the small wound on his neck, the Grand President slowly took off his clothes and said, "Your plan may have gone awry. I am a robot, and you cannot control me." As soon as he finished speaking, several figures flew towards them in the air. In just a few breaths, those beams of light converged on the Grand President. As the white mist slowly dissipated, a mech-covered robot appeared on the field. "Zombie, I hope you can hold on a little longer, because I haven't used my full strength in a long time," the Grand President said. With that, he rushed towards Zombie at an extremely fast speed, kicking him in the chin in an instant. Not only that, but before Zombie even landed, the Grand President flashed below him and landed a heavy punch on his chest, sending Zombie flying into the air for hundreds of meters. The two people watching from the side were completely stunned. Was this the Grand President's true strength? The Grand President quickly flew to Zombie's upper side, and then countless impacts were heard as Zombie was punched in midair by the Grand President countless times. When he felt he had had enough, the Grand President flashed in front of Zombie and kicked him to the ground. Just as Zombie landed, the Grand President's chest suddenly lit up with a red energy light. The next second, a powerful shockwave was sent towards the ground, and the terrifying energy shook the surrounding buildings to pieces. The Grand President, who had finally stopped attacking, breathed a sigh of relief and said, "He must be dead this time." But as the smoke slowly dissipated, Zombie appeared again, unscathed. The Grand President was completely incredulous at this sight. Suddenly, Zombie yelled towards the sky, and the terrifying force made Lan Chi and her partner, who were hundreds of meters away, almost unable to stand. The Grand President's mech in the field even cracked on the spot. As Zombie slowly stopped howling and turned around, Lan Chi and the other spectator were completely shocked. Because at this point, Zombie had transformed into a completely different form. As soon as Zombie's second form appeared, it triggered countless anomalies in the world. A hurricane began to swirl around him, with Zombie at its center, even affecting the entire city's airspace. Dawn, who saw this scene from afar, was incredulous, while Lan Chi, who was on the battlefield, was too scared to even breathe. Just as everyone was at a loss, Zombie, who was still in the abandoned warehouse, finally spoke up. "I told you from the beginning that I didn't want to go to war with humans." Hearing this, the Grand President was stunned, but before he could argue, Zombie suddenly tilted his head and smiled wickedly. "So, how do you want to die now?" This eerie scene left Lan Chi and the others horrified. Not only had Zombie's appearance changed, but his personality had also undergone a transformation. The two immediately began to try to escape at breakneck speed, as their own lives were at stake. However, the Grand President, who was still on the field, did not consider his own situation at all and even boasted, "I've never been afraid of any zombies my whole life." He then challenged the zombie to a fight. Meanwhile, Lan Chi and Dawn had already fled far away and were thinking that they were now safe. Suddenly, a figure flew past them with a loud bang. Seeing this, the two of them were instantly terrified, as the Grand President was actually shattered into pieces by a single punch from Zombie. Before they could react, Zombie had already flashed in front of them. The Grand President quickly shouted for his mech, but the robots were blown to pieces by a single bang from Zombie while still in midair. The explosion's shockwave also knocked Lan Chi and Dawn out of the sky. Seeing this, the Grand President urgently yelled at them to help clear the zombie, but Lan Chi didn't even want to listen. Who dares to go up against that thing? The three of them quickly ran away in different directions. However, the zombie, who saw this scene, didn't move. Instead, he raised his right hand and then plunged it into the ground. The next second, the previously calm new city began to shake, and Lan Chi, who was running away, suddenly froze, as a concrete road suddenly appeared in front of her. Even the Grand President next to her was hit by the sudden appearance of the road. It turned out that Zombie had lifted the entire developing new city. Everyone who saw this was confused. What was happening? Was there an earthquake? On the other side, Dawn also couldn't believe what she was seeing. This is an uninhabited city. I never thought it could be lifted up. At this moment, Zombie suddenly made a move, and with a loud bang, he quickly rushed towards the Grand President. In an instant, Zombie pressed his hand on the Grand President's forehead, and then he grinned wickedly and said, "So, are you scared now?" At this point, Zombie smiled with a touch of devilry and said, "Although I have no control over the robots, your brain doesn't seem like it's a machine, is it?" With that, he used his finger to slice the scalp of the Grand President. In the next moment, countless zombie viruses instantly occupied the Grand President's entire brain. Zombie read some memories from his brain. It was unexpected that the seemingly arrogant president was also a pitiful person. At the age of 5, both his parents passed away due to an accident. He was then captured by Professor Jamie for human modification, and it could be said that there was hardly a normal part of him below his head. Seeing this, Zombie couldn't help but pity him and said, "Do you think living like this is any better than being a walking dead like us?" With that, he released him. Lan Chi below saw what happened and hurriedly rushed over to catch the barely breathing president. At this moment, she was also horrified. She never thought that Zombie had the ability to read other people's memories. Later that night, Zombie hurriedly ran back to his dormitory, thinking to himself as he packed his luggage, "Why couldn't I control my emotions again? Now I'm exposed. I should run away quickly." However, when he was ready to leave with his luggage, Violet suddenly appeared and stopped him. Zombie was very helpless at this moment. He was clearly a very kind zombie who really disliked killing, but for the sake of his freedom, he turned around and rushed towards Violet. However, at this moment, Violet suddenly displayed a letter of appointment, and said, "From today on, you are the Vice President of the Abnormal Academy." Zombie was very confused when he heard this, but the appointment letter in front of him didn't seem to be fake. He then instinctively asked, "Did the Grand President personally seal this with his stamp? Also, didn't he tell you anything else?" Violet slightly tilted her head and said, "The Grand President only said that you are a rare talent, without saying much else." At the same time, when Lan Chi learned that the Grand President wanted to keep Zombie, she was shocked. However, the Grand President said, "Whether he is a zombie or a human is no longer important. The most important thing is that he can help us catch Professor Jamie." He then asked Lan Chi how the arrangements for this matter were going. Upon hearing this, Lan Chi said that everything was prepared and they could leave at any time. "Very good. I hope we can successfully catch Professor Jamie this time." The scene then shifted to an abandoned small town where Varmint angrily roared, "Our king has been captured by humans, what should we do? Kill the humans and rescue the king." The zombie minions were filled with passion. However, Blackie on the rooftop expressed disdain. "How could our king be captured by humans? I think it's just Varmint being idle." After a few peaceful days, a carrier suddenly appeared in a certain sea area. The Grand President stood in the command center and shouted into the microphone, "Listen up, everyone. We only have one chance, and we must catch Professor Jamie at any cost." They soon arrived at the ruins where Professor Jamie was hiding. However, Zombie, with Dawn, was wandering around like window shopping. Just then, a group of armed human forces suddenly appeared. When they saw Zombie, they all saluted him, leaving him feeling very confused. At this moment, a captain stepped forward and reported, "Starting today, the 56th Army composed of 120,000 people will only listen to Vice President Zombie's arrangements." Observing the 120,000 humans at his command, Zombie curiously inquired, "Would you be willing to die for me if I asked?" As his voice faded, a soldier immediately pulled out a grenade, shouting, "It would be an honor." Zombie was left speechless, wondering if the man was mad. But at that moment, a discordant voice interrupted his thoughts. "I don't understand how such an important strategic location is guarded by a weakling. You should hide behind us, lest you cause harm." At this point, Dawn exclaimed, "Are you the president and vice president of the Steel Blade Department from the Stainless Steel Academy?" Simultaneously, on the aircraft carrier, an armored youth scoffed, "Has your academy run out of people? Sending a novice to guard such a vital position?" Lan Chi immediately retorted, "If you're going to help, help. Don't babble in front of me." The Grand President joined in, saying, "Do you believe that this novice could beat you senseless?" The Stainless Steel Academy's Grand President scoffed, and informed them that reinforcements were on the way, just wait and watch. Meanwhile, in a control room several kilometers underground, someone asked, "Brother Fei, they've all entered the city. What should we do? Professor Jamie responded with an evil smile, let's play with them first. Pressing a button on the console, hordes of zombies converged on Zombie from all directions. Suddenly, Glasses Man noticed something strange among the zombies. It turned out that Varmint wanted to find humans for revenge, and had incited the dead to attack them. But only one arrived the next day, and after handing over gasoline to Varmint, fled at top speed. Before leaving, he claimed he wouldn't dare disobey the king's orders. Varmint was speechless. Why not just keep it from the king? These cowardly fools, it's just a few humans. Watch me cut them down. However, curiosity compelled him to sniff the green gas floating in the air. Glasses Man was overjoyed seeing this, as he hadn't expected this zombie's data to be so exceptional. He couldn't help but laugh, come on. Show me your strength. Meanwhile, on the surface, the weaker zombies were quickly dispatched. Looking at the bodies, Zombie was puzzled, these don't seem to be from my horde. Hearing this, Dawn quickly turned away, feigning ignorance. The president suddenly stepped forward, taunting, you weaklings should go home and not get in the way. But before he could finish, distant roars erupted. Seeing this, Zombie hurriedly asked, Varmint, what are you doing here? Varmint didn't answer, instead downing the gasoline in his hand. Dawn was dumbfounded by the sight, what on earth is this? Suddenly, Varmint pulled the trigger on his chainsaw, and the engine roared to life. At that moment, Varmint mustered his strength and let out a forceful roar. In an instant, the surrounding structures cracked and crumbled. Dawn, who stood directly opposite him, was sent flying through the air. Fortunately, Zombie appeared in time to shield them from the brunt of the attack. With terror etched on her face, Dawn inquired, what on earth is this creature? By now, the entirely uncontrollable Varmint was ranting about annihilating all of humanity. The president of the Steel Blade Department, intrigued by these words, remarked, impressive, a formidable zombie at last. However, Zombie grabbed Dawn and sprinted away. Confused, Dawn asked, why are we running? Isn't the president here? Zombie, without looking back, replied, don't be foolish, that creature is indestructible. Hearing this, Dawn was taken aback. Zombie then warned, Varmint possesses a genuine, undying body. Yet, their escape was misinterpreted by the president of the Steel Blade Department as Zombie's fear. Before he could finish his mockery, though, the vice president was sent flying by one of Varmint's punches. Resounding crash, the president finally realized the gravity of the situation and urgently inquired, what's happening? What just occurred? At this point, the vice president was speechless. When the president looked again, Varmint had already materialized before him, and a rapid series of thuds from their ensuing battle echoed throughout the area. Inside the surveillance room, Glasses Man gasped, incredible. This creature's combat prowess is off the charts. Meanwhile, the president of the Steel Blade Department was faring poorly. As he contemplated a counterattack, Varmint slapped him, causing him to spin helplessly. Subsequently, the president was kicked hundreds of meters away with a single, powerful blow. Within moments, both the president and vice president had lost their fighting strength. As Varmint reappeared before them, he raised his chainsaw and swung it menacingly. Elsewhere, atop a building, Zombie and the others watched the events unfold leisurely. Panicking, Dawn exclaimed, oh no, it seems the president of the Steel Blade Department can't hold on much longer. To her surprise, the once arrogant president now cried out for his mother in utter despair. Dawn and her companion exchanged bewildered glances. As Varmint prepared to claim the president's life, the nearby team leader urgently asked, Vice President, what should we do now? Zombie observed Varmint's movements, considering that intervening might expose him. He then turned to Dawn and instructed, you go down and fight him. Hearing this, Dawn protested, even the president couldn't defeat that creature, going down there would be like walking into certain death. Zombie, however, ignored her and bit her arm. Dumbstruck, Dawn lamented, it's over, am I going to turn into a zombie now? She then clutched her chest and rebuked him, you wouldn't be harboring any inappropriate thoughts, would you? Speechless, Zombie advised, just remember to go easy when you attack. Fearing the exposure of his identity, Zombie employed his powerful virus to reconfigure and enhance Dawn's genetic makeup. In an instant, she transformed into a formidable fighter. As Varmint was about to defeat the Steel Blade Department's president, Dawn hastily hurled a rock at his forehead. Irritated, Varmint turned and roared, "Who dares to interrupt my affairs?" Unruffled, Dawn stepped forward and challenged, "Saw Wielder, what satisfaction do you find in bullying the weak? Come, entertain me instead." Varmint hesitated, then retorted with a fierce glare, "Who do you think you are? Worthy of battling me? What, are words your only weapon? I assure you, I can reduce you to tatters in mere moments," Dawn replied, swiftly producing a customized Gatling gun. In a blink, a barrage of bullets sped towards Varmint. Unexpectedly, Varmint evaded the onslaught with a casual series of dodges. However, the Steel Blade Department's president behind him was not as fortunate. But for the steel armor he donned, Dawn's bullets would have claimed his life before Varmint could. Seizing the moment, Dawn teleported in front of Varmint and leaped into the air, performing a 360-degree aerial spin. As she soared above Varmint's head, she hastily released 2 high-explosive grenades and shoved them into his mouth. A deafening boom resounded as Varmint was engulfed in flames. But once the smoke dissipated, he emerged unscathed, scoffing, "I am immortal. Your efforts are futile." Before he could finish, a shotgun blast struck his face. Dawn, grinning wickedly, taunted, "Not bad, but that was merely a warm-up." Meanwhile, the squad captain inquired curiously, "Vice President, what exactly did you do to her?" Zombie replied nonchalantly, "Merely a minor genetic modification. Moreover, this is only the beginning, I can make her even stronger." Back to Varmint. Although immortal, he found the relentless barrage unbearable. Dawn, seemingly invigorated, let out a maniacal laugh. Witnessing this, the Steel Blade Department's president and vice president despaired, yearning for the safety of home. Suddenly, Varmint seized the initiative and charged at Dawn, only to be trampled and kicked in the face. The force of her blows sent him hurtling hundreds of meters back. Hoisting a rocket launcher, Dawn roared, "You claim to be immortal. Try this on for size." Varmint, disheveled from the beating, noticed nearby gasoline. Desperate, he guzzled an entire barrel. Simultaneously, Dawn's rocket hurtled towards him. With a flash, the projectile split in 2. Reinvigorated by the gasoline, Varmint's combat prowess soared, and he managed to bisect Dawn. The Steel Blade Department's president and vice president lamented, "It's over, we're doomed." Smirking haughtily, Varmint jeered, "I told you I am immortal. Heed my warning in your next life." However, at that moment, Zombie on the rooftop clenched his fist. Miraculously, Dawn's severed body began to mend itself. Varmint gaped in astonishment, never suspecting that Dawn, too, possessed the power of immortality. This is the proper way to wield a Gatling gun. One swift blow, and even Varmint is left bewildered for a moment. It turns out that just recently, Dawn, under the influence of Zombie's super virus modification, not only experienced a significant surge in combat prowess but also gained an undying body similar to Varmint's. Witnessing this spectacle, the 2 presidents present wished nothing more than to flee home to their mothers. However, the 2 combatants in the arena seemed to grow more invigorated with each clash. Dawn, wearing a wicked grin, roars, "Impressive, isn't it? Today, I am feeling generous, I shall accompany you to the bitter end." Upon hearing these words, Varmint is left dumbfounded. What is going on? It seems that Dawn appears even more like a zombie than he does. Zombie, who is observing from the rooftop, never expected Dawn's potential to be so immense after undergoing genetic mutation. Yet, her entire skeleton has been shattered, and the pain from being bisected earlier is all too real. The battle must be concluded quickly. Varmint, since you refuse to stay home, do not blame me for using Dawn's hand to thrash you. With Zombie's deliberate manipulation, Dawn's latent potential is once more ignited. In an instant, she appears before Varmint. A thunderous boom resounds as Dawn's fist connects with Varmint's face, sending him flying dozens of meters away. Just then, Dawn reappears behind him and mercilessly smashes the butt of her gun into Varmint's forehead. As the dust settles from the echoing bang, Varmint crawls from the pit only to be met by Dawn in a relentless barrage of blows. At this point, Varmint has no ability to fight back. Anticipating yet another combination attack, he hastily surrenders, promising to return home immediately and never venture out again. Upon hearing this, Zombie's face contorts with embarrassment, while the bespectacled man observing from the control room is equally baffled. Suddenly, Dawn drops her machine gun, and her tense demeanor vanishes in an instant. Seizing this opportunity, Varmint springs from the pit and lands a surprise punch on Dawn's face. Witnessing this, Zombie exclaims in exasperation, "Dawn, what are you doing? You actually believed his lies. Moreover, the moment you let down your guard, you revert to your original state." Dawn, filled with regret, did not anticipate her heightened state to dissipate so easily. Varmint, now brimming with arrogance, sneers, "So, you took some stimulants. Now that their effects have worn off, I'd like to see how you meet your end." Zombie, rendered speechless by the scene, realizes that he must take matters into his own hands. The bespectacled man observing from the shadows is thrilled, exclaiming, "This zombie is incredibly powerful, even resorting to sneak attacks." He excitedly manipulates his keyboard, intending to have Varmint eliminate them all. As Varmint closes in, just before he can finish off Dawn and the others, the bespectacled man notices another person appearing on the street. Varmint halts his actions as he spots Zombie approaching. Just as the bespectacled man anticipates another thrilling showdown, Varmint begins to stammer, unable to articulate a single word. Zombie, with a dark expression, shouts, "Varmint, didn't I tell you to stay home? What are you doing here?" At these words, everyone present is taken aback. Inside the control room, the bespectacled man is equally astonished, as no matter how he tries to control Varmint, he remains unresponsive. With Zombie's arrival, Varmint's consciousness is instantaneously pulled back to their first encounter centuries ago. Back then, he had assumed Zombie to be a mere fledgling zombie, never expecting that in just a few short years, Zombie would become the supreme leader of the undead realm. The scene returns to the present, where Dawn and the others struggle to comprehend the sight before them. Moments ago, Varmint was brimming with arrogance, but now, he is paralyzed with fear. Upon witnessing this scene, the bespectacled man's face was a picture of disbelief. Without hesitation, he frantically pressed buttons on the control panel, attempting to manipulate Varmint further. However, as Zombie steadily approached, Varmint was so frightened that he dared not even breathe. In a fleeting moment, Varmint's thoughts drifted back to a summer several centuries ago. At that time, he had reigned as the Zombie King, dominating his corner of the world. Yet, when the self-proclaimed zombie appeared, Varmint initially dismissed him as an ordinary zombie. Within the next moment, Zombie had grasped Varmint's mouth, declaring, "From now on, you are my subordinate. Any objections?" Hearing this, Varmint hastily nodded in agreement. Fast-forwarding to the present, Varmint remained utterly motionless. Infuriated, the bespectacled man cursed, "You possess an immortal body. What on earth are you afraid of?" Little did he know, Varmint had once been dismembered and hung from a tree as cured meat for centuries as punishment for his disobedience to Zombie. Thus, regardless of the bespectacled man's efforts to control Varmint, his body instinctively resisted. At that moment, the computer controlling the zombies exploded under the bespectacled man's furious button mashing, and Varmint, terrified, fled the scene. The bespectacled man stood dumbfounded, while nearby onlookers were equally baffled. As for Zombie himself, he was utterly perplexed, wondering, does Varmint truly fear me that much? Seeing his plan foiled by Zombie, the bespectacled man seethed with rage. However, as he prepared to continue, a large hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. "Let it go," the voice said, "these zombies were merely an appetizer. The real show is just beginning." As the words faded, several armed helicopters appeared high above in the sky. It was the president of the Beyonders Academy and his associates who had arrived. Lan Chi asked the traitor, "Tell me, is your brother Fei hiding below?" "Yes, they're concealed 1,000 meters underground, spanning an area of over 10,000 square meters," the traitor replied. Lan Chi was momentarily taken aback. How on earth are we supposed to search such a vast underground space? Before she could finish, the president of the Stainless Steel Academy unsheathed his sword, proclaiming, "Just watch my performance." With that, he launched himself from the helicopter like a speeding arrow. Witnessing this, Lan Chi could not help but comment sarcastically, "You truly are a reckless man." Unfazed, the Stainless Steel Academy president advanced, brandishing his sword haphazardly. In the next instant, he executed a spiraling descent toward the ground. Within moments, a thunderous boom echoed from the earth below. Incredibly, in just a few short breaths, the Stainless Steel Academy president had created a massive, 100-meter-deep crater in the ground. Rendered speechless, Lan Chi thought, "He's quite the oaf. Then, she turned to the Grand President and voiced her concern, with such a commotion, what if there are traps below? The Grand President, however, remained nonchalant, asserting that in the face of absolute power, all traps were meaningless. With that, he too leaped from the helicopter, plunging toward the ground. Upon the arrival of all armed forces in the subterranean lair, a thorough search yielded no suspicious individuals, much to the bewilderment of the Stainless Steel Academy's president and the Grand President. Had Professor Jamie fled? Meanwhile, above ground, Lan Chi could not help but complain, why must we stand guard up here while they descend to apprehend someone? Violet, having no alternative, could only placate her with a resigned reply, their rank is higher than ours, after all. The scene then shifts to a skyscraper, where the bespectacled man asks Brother Fei, all of their forces have entered. What should we do next? Brother Fei adjusts his glasses and states, it's time to show them the greatness of my experiment. Execute Plan A. Simultaneously, in the underground lair, the Stainless Steel Academy's president approaches a cylindrical cultivation chamber and, driven by curiosity, peels off a note affixed to it. The note reads, Behold the Zombie King. Open if you dare. Unable to resist such a challenge, the Stainless Steel Academy's president orders his subordinates to open the chamber. However, the Grand President interjects, our primary objective is capturing someone. Let's not complicate things. Realizing they were not taking the bait, the bespectacled man hastily reports to Brother Fei, they back down. Unperturbed, Brother Fei retrieves a detonator from his pocket and, with the press of a button, initiates a countdown on a remote bomb behind the cultivation chamber. Sensing imminent danger, the Grand President knows it's too late to evade. A powerful explosion erupts, engulfing all the soldiers in flames. Yet, to the President of the Stainless Steel Academy, this explosion barely registers as a scratch. Upon learning that something has emerged from the cultivation chamber, Brother Fei laughs maniacally, the destruction of humanity begins today. Go forth, my greatest creation, and slaughter all humankind, even me if you must. Back in the underground lair, as the smoke clears, both the Stainless Steel Academy's president and the Grand President are utterly baffled by the sight before them. The so-called Zombie King is nothing more than a helpless zombie infant. The two leaders are dumbstruck by this absurd revelation. As the Stainless Steel Academy's president moves to investigate further, the Grand President warns him, be careful. The more harmless a creature appears, the more dangerous it can be. Undeterred, the president charges forward, slashing at the creature with his blade. The Sea Brother Fei's helpless zombie infant evades the attack with an eerie agility. The Grand President exclaims, I knew it would come to this. He then orders a hasty retreat, shouting to the soldiers, withdraw quickly, or we shall all perish. As the soldiers scramble to escape, the Stainless Steel Academy's president, unwilling to admit defeat, scoffs at the notion of a tiny zombie posing any real threat. He launches another ferocious attack, cleaving the zombie in two. As a Brother Fei victory, his triumph is short-lived, as the two halves of the zombie mutate into separate entities. Stunned, the president exclaims, what kind of monster is this? At that moment, the two independent zombie infants emit a series of strange utterances, and in another bizarre twist, fuse back together. At that moment, Professor Jamie had already fled to the rooftop. Brother Fei, let's release the zombies while they're still unaware and make our escape amidst the chaos. With that, the bespectacled man unleashed all the zombies within the city. In just an instant, a horde of zombies rushed towards Lan Chi and her team. However, Lan Chi remained composed in the face of this onslaught. As her subordinate prepared to call for reinforcements, she stepped forward and said, there's no need. Stand down. She then approached, removing the hairpin that held her hair in place. With a swift motion, the hairpin transformed into a sharp, gleaming sword. In that moment, Lan Chi wielded the sword with the grace and poise of a legendary heroine. With a whoosh sound, she had already kicked the zombie's chin with one swift motion. Successive thuds echoed as she sent every single one of the undead creatures soaring through the air. Utilizing the springiness of a nearby tree, Lan Chi leapt skyward. The vice president, who witnessed the scene, was astonished to see Lan Chi's lightning-fast swordsmanship. In just a few breaths, she landed back on the ground, while the airborne zombies were reduced to mere fragments. The vice president, who had been enjoying his lunch, was left dumbfounded as his plate was now adorned with a top-tier zombie sushi. With her arms crossed, Lan Chi scoffed, these zombies barely served as a warm-up. Meanwhile, the bespectacled man on the rooftop fumed, frustrated that the newly released zombies were so easily dispatched. If only that chainsaw-wielding zombie were still here, I'd make this meddlesome woman suffer. He proceeded to direct more zombies towards Lan Chi. However, at that moment, two peculiar figures emerged from the alleyway. Unexpectedly, it was Ago and Blackie who had arrived on the scene. Blackie approached a zombie and inquired, "Have you seen the zombie in this picture? The one with the chainsaw?" Before he could finish, the wanted poster in his hand was snatched away by the zombie. Speechless, Blackie couldn't help but lament the audacity of this feral creature. Ago stepped forward and asked, "If we can't find Varmint, will the boss beat us too?" Hearing this, Blackie broke out in a cold sweat, hastily reassuring himself, "We'll find him." Meanwhile, in the underground lair, the pacifier-sucking zombie reached out and exclaimed, "Come play with me." The two presidents exchanged bewildered glances, and the Stainless Steel Academy president drew his blade, slashing at the zombie only to have it dodge his every move. In a sudden burst of power, the president cleaved the zombie in two with a single stroke. Yet, astonishingly, the bisected creature bounced around before reassembling itself, seemingly unharmed. Enraged, the president challenged it, "Stop running and face me in a real battle if you dare." At this, the zombie removed its pacifier, and a bizarre transformation took place. The once diminutive creature now stood as a tall, alluring female zombie. The two presidents gaped in disbelief, wondering, what on earth is this? At that moment, the zombie suddenly addressed them, exclaiming, "What's the matter? Come play with me." However, for the president of the Stainless Steel Academy, the presence of a beautiful woman did not hinder the speed at which he drew his sword. Instantly, he unleashed a fierce double-edged slash towards the female zombie. But in the next second, he was dumbfounded, for his domineering strike was effortlessly caught by a simple lift of her hand. No matter how hard he exerted himself, the steel blade refused to advance any further. Witnessing this scene, the president of the Stainless Steel Academy realized he was no match for her and quickly turned to shout, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and help." Upon hearing this, the Grand President no longer hid, and with a booming sound, the mech number 1 made its dazzling appearance. Yet before he could even make a move, he was sent flying by the female zombie's inch punch. The terrifying force pierced straight through a large building, ultimately coincidentally landing in front of Blackie and Go. Seeing the sudden appearance of this human, Go instinctively asked, "He seems to be on the verge of death. Should we save him?" Blackie hurriedly retorted, "Are you stupid? We're zombies." Just then, another deafening explosion erupted from the underground dungeon, followed by the Stainless Steel Academy president being sent flying like a cannonball. Violet and Lan Chi hurriedly approached, asking, "What happened in the dungeon?" Enduring the pain, the Stainless Steel Academy president raised his hand, pointing behind them, "See for yourselves." Upon hearing this, the two women swiftly turned around, only to reveal astonished expressions upon recognizing the newcomer. For the alluring female zombie was now leisurely leaning against the railing, yawning, before casting a flirtatious glance at Lan Chi and Violet. Witnessing this bizarre scene, Violet instinctively felt this zombie was no ordinary being, while Lan Chi hastily drew her sword, declaring, "We must cooperate and not let her escape." Yet, despite the combined pressure from the two presidents, the enchanting female zombie remained unflustered, even playfully beckoning them with her finger. Meanwhile, on the other side, Zombie and the others were leisurely barbecuing skewers. At this moment, the president of the Steel Blade Club picked up a cup of tea and obsequiously offered, "President Zombie, please have some tea." However, before Zombie could even take a sip, a thunderous noise suddenly erupted from the far end of the street. The strange sound left Dawn momentarily bewildered. "What's happening over there?" Upon hearing this, Zombie promptly stood up and announced, "Let's go and see what's going on." Can you believe it? The once shapely and alluring female zombie has now transformed into a grotesque, 8-pack-bearing mutant minotaur. Just moments ago, Lan Chi and Violet had prepared to join forces against the female zombie, but instead of retreating, she brazenly charged at them. Lan Chi struck first, hurling her precious sword at the zombie. With a swish, it only managed to leave a small wound on her face. Witnessing this, Violet hastily drew her blade and charged as well. However, within the next second, she found herself kicked in the chin by the female zombie. The excruciating pain nearly caused Violet to lose consciousness. The female zombie then spoke, "Your speed is decent, but your strength is sorely lacking." Infuriated by the remark, Violet performed a 360-degree spin in mid-air before delivering a powerful kick to the zombie's head. Despite the force of the blow, the female zombie remained unscathed. Sensing danger, Violet hastily retreated. As she did, Lan Chi charged forward, brandishing her sword. Countless sword energies swirled around the female zombie, instantly reducing the surrounding buildings to rubble. Yet, the zombie emerged from the onslaught completely unharmed. Meanwhile, the president of the Stainless Steel Academy, despite his own pain, managed to find a secluded spot. He quickly removed his pants and activated the machinery on his back. Soon after, the sound of whirring gears filled the air as he transformed into an armored knight. This was the Stainless Steel Academy's secret weapon, Steel Heart No. 1. The scene returned to Lan Chi and Violet, who continued their intense battle. However, as they prepared to launch their final attack, the female zombie suddenly extended a 2.5-meter-long tongue and underwent a series of grotesque mutations. The sight left Lan Chi and Violet dumbfounded. What kind of creature was this? The female zombie slammed her palm into the ground, sending Lan Chi and Violet flying with the force of the ensuing shockwave. In the meantime, the once alluring female zombie had fully transformed into a bizarre, 8-pack of bearing mutant minotaur. Fortunately, the newly transformed president of the Stainless Steel Academy arrived to join the fight. The severely wounded Lan Chi and Violet shouted, "Retreat! You are no match for her." But the overconfident president ignored their warnings and arrogantly approached the mutant minotaur. "Human, I hope you can withstand my attack." "Very well, let's settle this with a single blow." No sooner had he spoken than the president and the minotaur zombie exchanged blows. The impact of their fists colliding sent Lan Chi and Violet flying once again. The tremendous explosion caught the attention of Zombie not far away. As the smoke gradually cleared, all that remained of the Stainless Steel Academy president was a half-destroyed shell, while the Minotaur zombie appeared unharmed. "Human, you have lost. Abandon your futile resistance. I am the greatest zombie king in this world, and your demise is inevitable." Little did the Minotaur zombie know, Zombie was rapidly approaching from a short distance away. Despite facing such a formidable adversary, Lan Chi and Violet never once wavered. However, in the face of absolute power, their efforts were ultimately futile. The Zombie King merely flicked his wrist, and the Stainless Steel Academy president's mech disintegrated instantly, while Lan Chi and Violet were flung into the sky. Fortunately, Zombie appeared in time to rescue them. But before they could react, the Zombie King commanded, "Attack. Devour them." At his command, countless zombies charged towards Lan Chi and her friends. Upon witnessing this, Zombie was filled with rage. He threw Lan Chi and Violet to the ground and yelled, "Are you all blind? Begone!" Hearing this, the zombies were dumbfounded, and in an instant, they ceased their attack. The Zombie King, puzzled, inquired, "Who are you?" Zombie strode through the horde and asked, "You call yourself the Zombie King, so what should I be called?" At his words, the countless zombies all prostrated before him. In no time, the entire horde was crushed beneath Zombie's feet. "Well, are you speechless at the sight of me?" he taunted. The Zombie King grinned, "Ah, a fellow creature." He then proposed, "Since there can only be one Zombie King, let's have a contest." With that, he fiercely punched Zombie in the face. But the terrifying blow was met with mockery from Zombie, who asked if the Zombie King had been skipping meals. Hearing this, the Zombie King seethed, but before he could react, Zombie's fist had already landed on him. In an instant, the powerful force sent the Zombie King flying tens of kilometers, eventually crashing into an aircraft carrier. Professor Jamie, watching the battle from a rooftop, was dumbstruck. A fearsome creature had emerged from nowhere. On the other side, the Zombie King laughed, "Interesting. At last, I found a worthy opponent." He then plunged into the ocean and lifted a submarine weighing tens of thousands of tons into the sky. With a deafening explosion, Zombie was engulfed in dust. Meanwhile, atop a building, Blackie was administering emergency treatment to the president. Suddenly, Ah Go tapped his shoulder, "Look over there. I think I sense the great king's presence." As he spoke, a figure shot out from the center of the submarine. Zombie soared into the sky, and then flung a rope around the Zombie King's neck and yanked him violently. The next second, Zombie delivered a savage kick to the Zombie King's face, obliterating his features. The Zombie King was now thoroughly enraged. He charged to the ground, lifted the submarine once more, and swung it toward Zombie. With a thunderous boom, Zombie was blown thousands of kilometers away, landing on an aircraft carrier. Zombie's eyes turned cold. Do you enjoy smashing things? Come on, give it a try if you dare. The Zombie King had not yet grasped the severity of Zombie's words. Meanwhile, upon witnessing the Zombie King's immense power, the Grand President urgently advised, "We must evacuate. The creature Professor Jamie created isn't something your great king can handle." Before he could finish, Blackie scoffed, "Humans, pay close attention. There is no one in this world who can challenge the great king, not even a god. For the great king is invincible." As he spoke, Zombie suddenly appeared before the Zombie King, having teleported from the aircraft carrier. As the Zombie King marveled at Zombie's sudden increase in speed, Zombie's fist brutally slammed into his face. The terrifying force sent the Zombie King hurtling off the earth. Before the Zombie King could catch his breath, an aircraft carrier hurtled towards him at breakneck speed. With a resounding crash, the Zombie King was viciously embedded into the moon's surface. At this moment, Dawn and the others who were spectating from the sidelines were utterly dumbfounded. However, just then, the Zombie King on the moon abruptly exerted its strength. In the next instant, the aircraft carrier rigidly soared toward Earth. Accompanying it was the Zombie King's unbridled fury. Witnessing this spectacle, Zombie leaped into action without hesitation. With a resounding bang, he sped rapidly in pursuit of the Zombie King. Unexpectedly, the Zombie King suddenly burrowed into the interior of the aircraft carrier. It wasted no time wreaking havoc upon the nuclear reactor apparatus. Just as Zombie reached the carrier, a deafening explosion reverberated throughout the entire continent. Dawn and the others, upon seeing this, cried out for help. Yet, as the mushroom cloud gradually dissipated in the sky, Zombie miraculously alighted unscathed upon the battleship. He then began to mockingly utter, "Such damage is hardly enough to even tickle me." Upon hearing this, the Zombie King was rendered utterly speechless. Consequently, it began to amass all its strength once more. In the next second, its arms rapidly elongated as they lunged toward Zombie. In a mere instant, Zombie was blasted onto the top of a skyscraper. The Zombie King then proposed, "Since neither of us can best the other, why not join forces to annihilate the world?" Meanwhile, the Grand President, upon witnessing the Zombie King's terrifying power, began to advise, "We should flee while we can. I know your king is formidable after transforming, but continuing to battle like this is futile." However, before he could finish speaking, Blackie interrupted him, stating, "Who said our king can only transform once?" Upon hearing this, the Grand President's face was a picture of astonishment, as he had not anticipated that Zombie possessed a third form.